Oh man, so they're doing it again, dude. Seriously, the betting odds makers at Vegas are doing it again when it comes to making up crazy odds for some of the weirdest things. Last time we talked about the odds makers and what it is they said had the most likelihood of happening. We talked about the Detroit Red Wings head coach vacancy at the time, and how the guy with the highest likelihood, according to the odds, to get the new coaching job was none other than Sergei Fedorov, a guy that really didn't have any link to the Red Wings in any of the rumors that we had heard. I mean, sure, he was a former Red Wing, and he was a coach in the KHL that won the championship this previous season, but there was really no link between him and the Red Wings for the coaching job at all, and the guy that eventually got the job, Derek Lalonde, who was the guy that I thought was going to get it the entire time, ended up having a lot lower of a chance of getting it. So the Vegas odds makers, I mean, sometimes they're kind of out to lunch, aren't they? But either way, they're back here with another special sort of list of odds that you can bet on if you believe this is actually going to be a thing. It revolves around Patrick Kane, Chicago Blackhawks forward, 33 years old, 5'10", 176, signed till the end of 2023, making $10.5 million a season with a no-move clause. Now, I know the no-move clause might or might not actually be important in this conversation, but the way Patrick Kane has been playing his entire career has been nothing short of spectacular. Even last season, 92 points, 78 games, he had 66 points in 56 games the previous year, and 2 seasons ago he had 84 points in 70 games, not to mention the 110-point season he had in 2018-19. He also is an Art Ross winner, arguably the best American player to ever play the game, and he is suiting up for a Blackhawks squad that just lost out on Alex DeBrincat, Kirby Dach, Dominic Kubalik, Dylan Strome. This team is a shell of its former self. And even though Patrick Kane has a no-move clause, we're still speculating to a great extent whether or not Patrick Kane actually would waive that NMC with the intention of going to another team in the short term. This is a tweet from Darren Dreger from a few days ago while he's on vacation, because of course he's on vacation. All the NHL media people are kind of just taking some time off. I'm on the holidays, but I checked in on all of the Patrick Kane trade speculation. As far as Kane's camp is concerned, they remain undecided, so everything at this point is speculative. Now, speculative as of 3 days ago, so if there is a trade with Patrick Kane, who really knows if it's going to come anytime soon, but if you go over to sportsbetting.ag, you can see some of the recent odds that were put out by the guys over in Vegas who decide these things. They have a brand new special list. You can bet on whichever team Patrick Kane is going to go to if he gets traded. Now, as you know, the betting odds go as follows. There's a plus 100, plus 200, plus 300. Pretty much it means if you bet $100 on a bet that gives you a plus 300 and you win that bet, it actually comes true, you gain $300 as a profit. If the prompt you're betting on is a negative number, like it's negative 50 or negative 100, that means you need to bet $50 or $100 to get $100 if you get it correctly. Pretty much the higher number in terms of magnitude of the bet you're making, it means it's more unlikely to occur. And the lower that number is, or the closer it is to negative infinity, that means it's more likely to occur. Connor McDavid getting a point in a game has like a negative, I don't know, like 300-400 betting odds because it's so likely at this point. But if you go over to Patrick Kane and the trading odds, I just wanted to read to you the list in terms of more likely to least likely in the eyes of the Vegas bet setters themselves. They have, at a plus 300 rating, Patrick Kane getting traded to the Edmonton Oilers. The Colorado Avalanche are next with a plus 350 rating. The Rangers follow with a plus 400. The LA Kings are next up with a plus 500. The Tampa Bay Lightning come in here with a 550. The Toronto Maple Leafs go with a plus 600. And the Buffalo Sabres have a whopping plus 750 rating as a Patrick Kane trade destination. Now, there are a whole bunch of videos we can make about all these teams. New York, Tampa Bay, Toronto maybe, but I wanted to focus on the top 3 teams here in particular. The Edmonton Oilers, the Colorado Avalanche, and the New York Rangers. These are, in the eyes of the betting sports makers in Vegas, the teams that Patrick Kane is most likely going to get traded to. And as you can expect, these betting odds put up a pretty good conversation for the rest of the hockey world. There was an article published on the Edmonton Journal talking about how the Oilers are the favored team to land Patrick Kane in a trade by David Staples a few days ago. But I wanted to highlight something from this individual piece that we also talked about in that Sergei Fedorov video all those weeks ago, and it's a point made by John Shannon on Oilers Now with Bob Stouffer. He chuckled at the idea of Patrick Kane getting sent over to Edmonton, mainly because these betting sites are trying to lure in bets, and they're not necessarily trying to make the most rational prediction on what will happen. The odds get put up by people who are from that town who are prepared to take the bet, Shannon said. They're not necessarily calculated bets, they are emotional bets. This is exactly what we said with the Sergei Fedorov thing too, because we had highlighted, hey, the guy won a championship in the KHL that previous season, he is a former Red Wings legend, and he's a head coach. Why not lure in Red Wings fans who are trying to send some money into a betting site's pocket by saying, hey, your former beloved Fedorov might be a head coaching candidate, and we have him at the highest odds, so throw your bets in here and give us that money. And I don't doubt that that strategy actually works out for these betting sites. It just gets more interesting when you talk about trade destinations for potential teams. Patrick Kane is an absolute superstar at the National Hockey League level, and you're going over to an Edmonton Oilers squad that already has another Kane, first and foremost, and that is going to really need to make a decision. Okay, make or break this year or bust. We have 1 year left to Patrick Kane. If we trade away a whole bunch of prospects and a whole bunch of picks to get this guy, we will be sacrificing our future, and Connor McDavid might not even want to play here next year if that's the case. It would be an ultimate sort of kamikaze move to get the Oilers trading away a whole bunch of future for 1 more year of a playoff run, trying to get past the 3rd round, trying to actually beat your demons in Colorado, and getting Patrick Kane onto your squad to do so. It would be super risky, but of course it would make for some pretty entertaining content if you get Patrick Kane and Connor McDavid suiting up on the same power play with Leon Draisaitl on the opposite side. It would be very, very good. Going over to the other teams, though, the Colorado Avalanche are very intriguing to me in this respect. Mostly because, of course, they just won the Stanley Cup, and Patrick Kane going over to a Stanley Cup championship caliber team would eventually lead to more Stanley Cups, I have no doubt in my mind. But Colorado being that team, I'm not really too sure if they actually have the assets to get it off. Joe Sakic has been pretty liberal when it comes to paying the teams that are giving him rental players. It happened with Artturi Lehkonen, it happened with Darcy Kemper. Sakic in both of these trades gave up significant assets that, sure, I mean, you could say, oh, value to value, is Artturi Lehkonen really worth the potential that Justin Barron has? You could debate not, but who cares? They won a cup. So who knows if there's somewhat of a move that Joe Sakic would be willing to do to shell out even more assets and more future for a Patrick Kane that will only stick around for 1 year. You also have the New York Rangers, who have had a boatload of younger pieces at their disposal, but based off of the trade negotiations that we have seen for guys like Dubois and JT Miller and all that stuff, it's not really too apparent to me that the Rangers would be super willing to depart with just whatever it is these teams that are trading the rental players away are asking for, because they really do value their long-term projectability and therefore would not want to sacrifice that in the crux of a 1-year rental kind of trade. Having Patrick Kane on Colorado would make things super exciting. Him with Nathan MacKinnon would be as cool as him playing with Connor McDavid, but of course there is, the rest of the Colorado staff that is so good too. Not just McKinnon, it's Ronson and it's Landeskog, it's, okay, maybe not Nazem Kadri anymore, we'll see, but you also have the New York Rangers who have needed a center for a while, and Patrick Kane is not a center, but having Kane playing with Panarin once more would be very fun, and it would reignite, I think, a lot of memories for hockey fans that saw in 2015-16 just how dominant that duo really was. Heck, maybe all this conversation doesn't really mean much, because maybe you're going to have the Chicago Blackhawks just absolutely can it and call it on a Patrick Kane trade. You saw what they did with DeBrincat. They traded that guy away for a very small return comparative to what we thought he would be able to get. Sure, 7th overall is great, but Kevin Korchinski, the guy you got, I don't really know if he's 7th overall worthy. Furthermore, the other picks you got for DeBrincat do not justify, I feel, the value that he has, even without the contract extension heading into the next few years that he will be yet to sign with Ottawa. But either way, talk to the comments your thoughts about Patrick Kane and the idea of him getting traded over to any of these teams, and whether or not these three teams, the Oilers, the Avalanche, and the Rangers, are, in your opinion, quote-unquote, the most likely teams to actually see his services. If you're seeing a Patrick Kane trade, do you think Buffalo has a better chance because Buffalo is listed as the most unlikely team, as the Vegas betting odds went out there and said? Do you think it's more likely that he goes over there because he's from there and he wants to help out a young rebuilding team? Would Patrick Kane want to go from one rebuilding young squad to another rebuilding young squad that just has a lot more fun? Talk in the comments all your thoughts about this idea. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.